The fluorescent lights above my hospital bed flickered like dying fireflies, casting shadows that danced across the sterile white walls. My head throbbed with each heartbeat, and the taste of copper lingered on my tongue. 47 years old today, and I was celebrating alone in a room that smelled of disinfectant and broken dreams. The nurse had been vague about how I got here. "Car accident," she'd said, avoiding my eyes. "You've been unconscious for 18 hours." 18 hours. My birthday had come and gone while I lay here like a discarded gift nobody wanted to unwrap. I reached for my phone with trembling fingers, expecting the usual flood of birthday messages. Instead, I found something that made my blood run cold. A notification from Instagram suggesting I follow someone named Bexley_Adventures. The profile picture showed my sister Cordelia's unmistakable laugh lines, but the name was wrong. My sister's name was Cordelia, not Bexley. Curiosity mixed with dread as I tapped the profile. What I saw next made the room spin faster than my concussion already had. There was my entire family. My husband, Dashiell, my sister, my parents, even my teenage daughter, Imogen, all beaming on the deck of a massive yacht. The caption read, "Day 3 of our amazing Mediterranean adventure, 65,000 well spent." My hands shook so violently, I nearly dropped the phone. $65,000. That was more than I made in a year at the nonprofit where I worked, more than we'd ever spent on anything except our house. And they were spending it without me, celebrating while I lay broken and alone. The worst part wasn't the money or even being left behind. It was the realization that they'd planned this elaborate deception. My sister had created a fake Instagram account, probably thinking I'd never find it. They'd all conspired to exclude me from what looked like the trip of a lifetime. I dialed Dashiell's number with fingers that felt like they belonged to someone else. "Hello." Dashiell's voice sounded different, relaxed, carefree in a way I hadn't heard in years. There was laughter in the background, the clink of glasses, music I didn't recognize. "Where are you?" My voice came out as a whisper, barely audible over the machines beeping around me. "Business trip, sweetheart. You know how these conferences are. Boring as hell, but necessary." The lie rolled off his tongue so smoothly, it made my stomach lurch. 22 years of marriage, and I'd never heard him sound so practiced at deception. I could hear Imogen's voice in the background, calling out something about dolphins. Our daughter, who was supposed to be at summer camp according to what Dashiell had told me last week. Another lie in the carefully constructed web they'd woven around me. "How's your head feeling?" he asked. And for a moment, I thought maybe he knew about the accident. Maybe there was some explanation that would make sense of this nightmare. "You know about the hospital?" Hope fluttered in my chest like a dying bird. "Hospital? What hospital? Meredith, what's wrong?" His confusion sounded genuine, which somehow made everything worse. They hadn't just excluded me from their vacation, they'd completely forgotten about me. I was so insignificant in their lives that my own husband didn't even know I'd been in an accident. The phone felt heavy in my hand as I stared at the Instagram photos again. There was my mother, wearing a sundress I'd never seen before, raising a champagne flute toward the camera. My father had his arm around Cordelia, both of them tan and glowing with the kind of happiness that comes from expensive freedom. And Dashiell, my husband of 22 years, was in the background of one photo, his shirt unbuttoned, looking more relaxed than he had during our entire marriage. "I'm fine," I said finally, my voice steady now. "Just tired. Enjoy your business trip." "I will. Love you." The words that should have brought comfort felt like salt in an open wound. "I love you too," I whispered, but he'd already hung up. I sat there in the suffocating silence, feeling the weight of betrayal settle into my bones like arthritis. The nurse bustled in to check my vitals, her movements efficient and kind. She was the first person to show me genuine care in what felt like forever. "Honey, you're crying," she said softly, reaching for a tissue. "Pain getting worse?" I wanted to tell her that yes, the pain was unbearable, but it wasn't coming from my head. It was radiating from somewhere deeper, somewhere that no medication could touch. The kind nurse, whose name tag read Jolene, stayed with me longer than necessary, sensing something beyond my physical injuries needed attention. When I finally stopped crying, she pulled up a chair beside my bed with the practiced ease of someone who'd comforted countless broken souls. "Honey, I've been doing this for 30 years, and I can tell the difference between accident pain and heart pain," she said gently. "You want to talk about it?" Something about her genuine concern cracked open the dam I'd built around my emotions. "My family went on vacation without me," I whispered, the words sounding pathetic even to my own ears. "Without telling you?" "Worse. They told me they were all doing other things. My husband said he was on a business trip. My daughter was supposed to be at summer camp. They're all on a yacht somewhere in the Mediterranean, spending more money than we've ever had." Jolene's expression shifted from sympathy to concern. "How did you find out?" I showed her the Instagram photos, watching her eyebrows climb higher with each swipe. $65,000, she murmured. "That's more than most people make in a year." "It's definitely more than I make," I said bitterly. "I work at a nonprofit helping families in crisis. The irony isn't lost on me." "Can I ask you something personal?" Jolene's voice was careful now. "Do you remember what happened before your accident?" The question hit me like a physical blow. I'd been so consumed with the yacht discovery that I'd barely thought about how I ended up here. No, it's fuzzy. I remember being upset about something, getting in my car. The police report said you were found in your vehicle in the parking lot of First National Bank at 11:30 at night. You'd been there for hours before someone noticed you weren't moving. The bank. Suddenly, fragments began floating back to me like pieces of a broken mirror. I'd gone to check our accounts online, but the website kept crashing, so I'd driven to the ATM to get a balance receipt. What I'd seen there had made my world tilt sideways. "Our savings account," I whispered, the memory crystallizing with sharp clarity. It was empty, completely empty. We had $47,000 saved for Imogen's college fund, for emergencies, for our future. It was all gone. Jolene's hand found mine. "That's when you realized where the money for the yacht came from." "My own family stole from me," I said, the words tasting like poison. "They took everything we'd worked for and used it to exclude me from their perfect vacation." Jolene became my lifeline over the next 2 days. She worked extra shifts just to check on me, bringing me real food from the cafeteria and helping me piece together the legal steps I'd need to take. When my discharge paperwork came through, she even offered to drive me home. "I've seen women in your situation before," she said as we pulled into my driveway. "The ones who survive and thrive are the ones who get angry instead of getting even. There's a difference." My house felt like a museum of my former life. Family photos lined the mantelpiece, all of us smiling at Christmas, birthdays, graduations. But now I saw them differently. Had Dashiell been planning this betrayal even when he was hugging me in these pictures? Had Cordelia been thinking about how to exclude me while we were planning Imogen's sweet 16 party? I went straight to our home office and pulled out every financial document I could find. Bank statements, credit card bills, insurance papers. What I discovered made my hands shake with rage. The theft had been methodical, calculated. Small withdrawals over 3 months, each one just under the limit that would trigger bank notifications to me. They'd studied our account, learned my habits, and systematically drained our future. But there was something else. Hidden in Dashiell's desk drawer, I found printed emails between him and a travel agent named Bryce. The correspondence went back 6 months. 6 months of planning this elaborate vacation while lying to my face every single day. The most devastating email was dated 2 weeks ago. Confirmed guest list for Mediterranean Yacht Charter. Dashiell Morrison, Cordelia Hayes, Robert and Patricia Hayes, Imogen Morrison. Please note, Meredith Morrison will not be joining this trip. Remove her from all communications and meal planning. Will not be joining. Not can't make it, or has other commitments. They had deliberately excluded me from the very beginning, then stolen my money to pay for the privilege of my absence. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Hi, Mrs. Morrison. This is Autumn, Imogen's friend from school. Is everything okay? She posted some weird stuff on her private story about how you're finally out of the picture and they can have fun as a real family now. Thought you should know." The words hit me like a physical slap. My own daughter, the child I'd carried, raised, loved unconditionally, was celebrating my absence. She wasn't just complicit in this betrayal, she was reveling in it. I screenshot Autumn's message and added it to the growing folder of evidence on my laptop. Then I did something I'd never done in 22 years of marriage. I opened Dashiell's laptop and started digging through his files. What I found there would change everything. Dashiell's laptop opened without a password, another sign of how little he respected me. The first thing I found was a folder labeled New Life Planning. My heart hammered against my ribs as I clicked it open. Inside were documents that shattered what remained of my world. Divorce papers, already filled out and dated for next month. A real estate evaluation of our house. Research on alimony laws in our state. And most devastating of all, a detailed financial plan showing how he intended to hide assets before filing. But the cruelest discovery was a document titled Meredith Transition Strategy. It was a step-by-step plan to ease me out of the family before the divorce. The yacht trip wasn't just a vacation. It was a trial run for their life without me. They were testing how it felt to be together as a unit, seeing if they could function as a family with the problem removed. There were notes in Dashiell's handwriting. Cordelia agrees M has become increasingly difficult and negative. Kids happier when she's not around. Parents support decision. They never liked her anyway. My vision blurred with tears of rage. 22 years of marriage, and he'd reduced me to a problem to be managed, a burden to be discarded. I'd given up my career advancement to support his business ambitions. I'd moved away from my college friends when he got promoted. I'd made myself smaller and smaller until, apparently, I'd disappeared entirely. The final blow came in an email chain between Dashiell and someone named Victoria Ashworth. The messages were flirtatious at first, then explicitly romantic. Victoria was apparently a divorce attorney he'd met at a conference 6 months ago. She wasn't just handling his legal strategy, she was the reason for it. "Can't wait until this is all behind us, and we can start our real life together," Victoria had written. "The yacht trip sounds perfect. Wish I could join you, but better to keep things separate until the divorce is final." Dashiell's response made my stomach turn. "Meredith won't even know what hit her. By the time we get back, everything will be in motion. She'll be too overwhelmed to fight back effectively." I sat back in his chair, feeling oddly calm despite the nuclear bomb that had just exploded in my life. They thought I'd be overwhelmed. They thought I'd crumble under the weight of their betrayal and quietly accept whatever scraps they offered me. They were about to learn they'd underestimated the woman they'd spent 6 months plotting to destroy. I took photos of every document, every email, every piece of evidence of their conspiracy. Then I made a phone call that would change everything. "Jolene, it's Meredith. I need the name of the best divorce attorney in the city, and I need them to see me today." Attorney Camden Pierce had the kind of sharp intelligence that made me understand why Jolene had recommended her. Within an hour of our meeting, she'd reviewed all my evidence and was already 3 steps ahead of Dashiell's strategy. "This is extraordinary," Camden said, spreading the printed emails across her mahogany desk. Your husband handed us a roadmap to his entire plan. The systematic theft, the adultery with his attorney, the conspiracy to defraud you. It's all documented in his own words. What does this mean for me? I asked, feeling hope flicker to life for the first time in days. It means we're going to destroy him legally before he even knows we're in the game. Camden's smile was predatory. He's planning to file for divorce next month, thinking he'll catch you off guard and unprepared. Instead, we're filing first thing Monday morning. She explained the strategy with surgical precision. We'd seek an emergency restraining order on all assets, preventing him from hiding anything else. The adultery evidence would help us push for a larger settlement, especially since Victoria had clearly been advising him on how to minimize my share. Most importantly, we'd demand full restitution for the stolen savings plus damages. There's something else, Camden said, her expression growing serious. Your daughter is 17, correct? Old enough to choose which parent she wants to live with? The question hit me like a punch to the gut. In all my focus on Dashiell's betrayal, I'd almost forgotten that Imogen had been equally cruel. How do you fight for custody of a child who's celebrating your absence? I don't know if she'd choose me, I admitted. Then we make sure she understands the full scope of what her father did. Teenagers can be swayed by expensive vacations and fun times, but they also have a strong sense of justice. When she realizes her college fund was stolen to pay for excluding you, she might see things differently. That evening, I did something I'd never imagined I'd have the courage to do. I created my own Instagram account and started following everyone who had been on that yacht. If they wanted to document their betrayal so publicly, I'd make sure I had front row seats to every moment. What I saw in their latest posts made my blood boil. They were at some exclusive restaurant in Monaco, all dressed up and toasting with champagne that cost more per bottle than I spent on groceries in a month. The caption on Cordelia's post read, "Sometimes you have to cut out the negativity to truly enjoy life's blessings." I screenshot every single post, every smiling face, every expensive meal. Then I started planning something that would wipe those smiles away permanently. The family that had plotted against me in secret was about to discover what happened when you underestimated a woman with nothing left to lose. Monday morning arrived like Judgment Day. I sat in Camden's office at 8 a.m. sharp, watching her file the divorce papers electronically while I sipped coffee that tasted like victory. By 8:15, emergency motions had been submitted to freeze all our assets, including Dashiell's business accounts that he thought I didn't know about. The restraining order should be approved by noon, Camden said, her fingers flying across the keyboard. Your husband's world is about to come crashing down, and he won't even see it coming. At 10:30, my phone rang. Unknown international number. Meredith? Dashiell's voice was tight with panic. Something's wrong with our accounts. I can't access anything. The bank says there's some kind of legal hold. I let the silence stretch just long enough to make him squirm. That's interesting. Maybe you should call your lawyer. What lawyer? Meredith, what's going on? Oh, you know exactly what's going on, Dashiell. The question is, how are you going to pay for your little family vacation now that you can't steal any more of my money? The sharp intake of breath told me everything I needed to know. He'd thought he was so clever, so careful. He'd never imagined I'd discover his betrayal, let alone fight back. I don't know what you think you found, but I found everything. My voice was steady, cold. The emails to Victoria, the asset hiding plan, the Meredith transition strategy. I even found the part where you called me difficult and negative. 22 years of marriage, and that's how you see me. Meredith, let me explain. No need. My attorney will be in touch. Oh, and Dashiell? You might want to tell Victoria that sleeping with her client was a spectacular breach of ethics. I'm sure the State Bar will be fascinated by your correspondence. I hung up and immediately called Jolene, who'd become my unofficial war counsel. "It's done," I told her. "He knows." How did he sound? Terrified. Angry. Exactly how someone sounds when their perfect plan falls apart. Within an hour, my phone was buzzing with calls from Cordelia, my parents, even Imogen. I let them all go to voicemail, savoring the sound of their increasingly desperate messages. Cordelia's was particularly satisfying. "Meredith, I don't know what lies Dashiell told you, but this is all a misunderstanding. Call me back immediately." Lies. As if I hadn't seen their own Instagram posts documenting their betrayal in real time. By afternoon, Camden called with an update that made me smile for the first time in days. The judge approved everything. All assets are frozen pending investigation. Your husband's business accounts, the house, everything. He can't touch a penny without court approval. That evening, I made a decision that felt both terrifying and liberating. I was going to tell the world exactly what my family had done to me. I spent Tuesday evening crafting the most important social media post of my life. Every word was chosen carefully, every detail verified twice. Camden had reviewed it to ensure nothing would compromise our legal case. What I was about to do would burn every bridge with my family, but those bridges had already been destroyed by their betrayal. The post went live at 9 p.m., accompanied by screenshots of their yacht photos and key excerpts from Dashiell's emails. To everyone asking where I've been, I spent my 47th birthday alone in a hospital after a car accident, while my husband, daughter, sister, and parents enjoyed a $65,000 Mediterranean yacht vacation, paid for with money stolen from our savings account. They told me they were all doing other things, then celebrated being a real family without me. After 22 years of marriage, I discovered my husband has been planning to divorce me while having an affair with his attorney. They thought I'd never find out. They were wrong. I tagged everyone who had been on that yacht. The response was immediate and explosive. Within minutes, comments started pouring in. Friends, neighbors, coworkers, people from my nonprofit, even acquaintances I hadn't spoken to in years. The support was overwhelming, but it was the silence from my family that spoke loudest. My phone rang at 11 p.m. Cordelia, calling from overseas. "How could you do this to us?" she hissed before I'd even said hello. "Do you have any idea what you've done? People are calling us monsters. Mom's getting hate messages on Facebook." "Good," I said simply. "Maybe now they'll understand how it feels to be publicly humiliated." "You're destroying the family over a misunderstanding." "Stop!" My voice cut through her protests like a blade. "I have the emails, Cordelia. I know this was planned for 6 months. I know you all agreed I was too negative and difficult. I know you celebrated excluding me. Don't insult my intelligence by calling it a misunderstanding. We were going to include you, but you've been so depressed lately, so bitter about everything." "Bitter?" I was bitter because my own family was systematically stealing from me and lying to my face every single day. But sure, let's call me the problem. The next morning brought a development I hadn't expected. Autumn, Imogen's friend who'd first warned me, called with information that made my blood run cold. "Mrs. Morrison, I think you should know. Imogen's been bragging to everyone at school about how they finally got rid of you. She's been telling people you had a nervous breakdown, and they had to leave you behind for everyone's safety. She's made you sound completely unstable." My own daughter wasn't just celebrating my absence. She was actively destroying my reputation among people who knew us both. The betrayal cut deeper than anything Dashiell had done. Thursday brought news that they were cutting their vacation short. Camden's investigator had been tracking their movements, and the family was scrambling to return home 3 days early. The frozen assets meant they couldn't extend their stay even if they wanted to. They were essentially trapped with whatever cash they'd brought. "They're panicking," Camden told me over the phone. "Dashiell's been trying to reach Victoria, but she's not returning his calls. Smart woman. She knows this affair scandal could destroy her career. I was preparing for their arrival when my doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw a woman I didn't recognize. Mid-40s, professional attire, nervous energy. Mrs. Morrison? I'm Rebecca Chen from Channel 7 News. I wondered if you'd be willing to speak on camera about what happened to you. My story had gone viral. What started as a personal Facebook post had been shared thousands of times, picked up by local news outlets, and was now trending on social media platforms I'd never even heard of. People were calling it a cautionary tale about financial abuse and family betrayal. I don't think that's necessary, I said, but Rebecca's next words stopped me cold. Your daughter posted a video response this morning. She's claiming you made everything up for attention, that you've been having mental health issues for months. It's getting a lot of traction. My hands trembled as I watched Imogen's video on Rebecca's phone. My 17-year-old daughter, sitting in what looked like the yacht's luxury cabin, speaking directly to the camera with tears in her eyes. My mom has been struggling with depression and paranoia for over a year, she said, her voice breaking convincingly. We've been trying to get her help, but she refuses treatment. Dad thought a family trip might give her some space to get better, but she's turned it into this horrible conspiracy theory. None of what she's saying is true. We love her so much, but she needs professional help, not social media sympathy. The performance was masterful. She looked genuinely heartbroken, genuinely concerned for my well-being. If I hadn't seen the evidence with my own eyes, I might have believed her myself. 20 minutes after your daughter posted that video, it had 10,000 views, Rebecca said gently. People are starting to question your version of events. Some are calling you unstable, saying this proves your family was right to be concerned. I felt the ground shifting beneath my feet. They weren't just fighting back. They were trying to make me look insane. It was psychological warfare at its most cruel, and they were using my own daughter as their weapon. Would you like to respond? Rebecca asked. I looked at her camera, thinking about everything I'd lost, everything I'd discovered, everything I'd endured. Then I smiled. Not the broken smile of a victim, but the fierce smile of a woman who'd survived their worst and was still standing. Yes, I said. I have quite a lot to say. The interview aired that evening. I sat calmly in my living room, surrounded by the evidence I'd meticulously organized. Bank statements, printed emails, legal documents. When Rebecca asked about Imogen's claims, I didn't get defensive or emotional. Instead, I simply presented facts. My daughter says I'm unstable, I said, looking directly into the camera. Yet here are bank records showing systematic theft over 3 months. Here are emails between my husband and his mistress discussing their Meredith transition strategy. Here's documentation proving they planned this exclusion for 6 months while lying to my face daily. If gathering evidence of financial fraud and adultery makes me unstable, then I suppose I'm guilty as charged. I held up my phone, showing Cordelia's Instagram post. My sister wrote that they had to cut out the negativity to enjoy life's blessings. I am the negativity they cut out, their wife, mother, sister, and daughter. They stole my money, excluded me from my family, and when I discovered their betrayal, they're trying to convince the world I'm crazy. The response was immediate and overwhelming. My original post was shared another 50,000 times within hours. Legal experts on television called it one of the most well-documented cases of financial abuse they'd seen. The State Bar announced they were investigating Victoria Ashworth. Friday night, they came home. I heard the car doors slam, then familiar footsteps on the front porch. Dashiell's key no longer worked. I'd changed the locks the day after filing for divorce. When he knocked, I opened the door with Camden standing beside me. Meredith, we need to talk, Dashiell said, looking haggard and desperate. Actually, you need to talk to my attorney. I believe you've already been served with divorce papers. Behind him, I could see Cordelia, my parents, and Imogen clustered together like conspirators. Imogen's face was tear-streaked, but I felt nothing but cold satisfaction. She'd chosen her side when she celebrated my absence. "You're destroying our family," my mother said, stepping forward. "No," I replied quietly. "You destroyed our family when you decided I wasn't worth including in it. I'm just making sure everyone knows the truth." 6 months later, the legal battle was over. I received 80% of our assets, including the house. Dashiell's business partnership dissolved under the scandal. Victoria lost her law license. Cordelia's husband filed for divorce after learning she'd used their joint account to help fund the yacht trip. Most importantly, I found myself. The woman who'd once made herself smaller to please everyone else was gone. In her place stood someone who refused to be anyone's afterthought. Imogen still hasn't spoken to me, but I've made peace with that. Sometimes loving someone means accepting they're not capable of loving you back. Now tell me, what would you do if you were in my place? Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and comment where you're watching from.